Hello from Topeka. I'm Marley Carpenter, your KSCPA lobbyist. The Kansas legislature adjourned sine die last Friday. This means that the 2025 legislative session is over. The two-day veto session was just enough time for gubernatorial overrides and finishing up some conference committee reports left over from first adjournment. The 2025 session will go down as one of the quickest legislative sessions in recent memories. Lawmakers passed over 130 bills into law this year. Large Republican supermajorities allowed the legislature to successfully override 14 out of Governor Kelly's 18 vetoes this legislative session. A major victory was an override on Senate Bill 269 that will gradually transition Kansas to a single 4% income tax rate. This bill will phase down the current two-rate individual income tax when revenues hit a certain percentage over estimate. Once the individual income tax rate is reduced to 4%, the corporate income tax rate will also be phased down to 4%, as well as the combined normal and surtax for banks as they reach 2.6%. Other overrides include bills on religious freedom protections for adoptive foster parents, child support requirements from conception, restrictions on federal election funding, and reducing regulatory hurdles for new businesses. 15 of the governor's 30 line item budget vetoes were overridden as well. Two other tax policies were passed during veto session and are headed to the governor's desk this week. House Bill 2231 modifies the way multi-state businesses apportion their income, moving Kansas to a single sales tax factor for the tax year 2027. The second bill provides a sales tax exemption for qualified data centers investing in Kansas. Senate Bill 98 offers 20 years of sales tax exemptions to data centers that invest at least $250 million, maintain 20 employees, for 2 years. There was also action on House Bill 2289, which amends the Kansas Affordable Housing Tax Credit and the Kansas Housing Investor Tax Credit programs, and incrementally discontinues the Kansas Affordable Housing Tax Credit program. Also, hours before adjournment, the House and Senate leadership renewed their efforts to limit property tax increases in the state. The Tax Conference Committee met and agreed to two measures, neither of which ultimately passed. The first, Senate Bill 82, would establish the ASTRA Fund, which would incentivize local governments to stay below a certain threshold. The second item agreed to was Senate Concurrent Resolution 1603, which would enact a 6 years rolling property tax average cap for property taxes. Again, neither one of these items passed. Also discussed during veto session was Senate Bill 30, which would require professional regulatory boards to seek legislative approval of new licensure requirements. In working with AICPA, we sent an email with our concerns to senators, urging them to hold off on this legislation so that we could seek an exemption from these requirements. Ultimately, the bill was not approved. We will continue to monitor this legislation next session. Looking ahead, the Legislative Coordinating Council will meet in June to set and announce interim committees. We'll also see the governor's race heat up with more candidate announcements expected any day. With that, we are happy to announce that the 2025 legislative session is over. And if you have any questions, concerns, or need any information about any legislation that was passed, please contact myself or Danielle at the KSCPA office. Thanks so much and talk to you soon.